I think it's some.
What's your guys' favorite Christmas memory?
I mean, memory is kind of subjective, I think.
Well, it's not so much a memory, but it's something that would happen every year when we were younger. But when we would wake up super early for Christmas, and not like we ever really believed it, right? But when we would go downstairs, our dad would make us stay on the stairs just because he has to check if Santa came. And I think when we were younger, at least I was like, what if Santa didn't come? What if that was it for this year, that the Christmas tree was empty?
That would be actually really funny if, like, in a reality where Santa does exist and a parent actually has to go and check, like, make sure he came, and they come back around and they're like, fuck.
Well, that's
What'd you kids do this year? He didn't come.
That's one of the big criticisms with the Hallmark Christmas movies nowadays, is that, like, in this reality, Santa exists and parents walk downstairs and, like, they're like, oh wow, all these gifts showed up and I didn't buy them. Santa's still not real, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely wasn't me and my money that bought these gifts. So.
Yeah, dad's coming off like a 7-day Bailey's bender, and then just like, oh my God, I didn't get them gifts. Yeah, Santa didn't come this year. What an asshole!
A 7-day Bailey's bender, that is so much sugar and cream. Like, he would have
exactly.
The
It put you in some pretty low places even for the holidays.
Oh, that's awful. Oh. God, yeah, I was like, no, I would definitely not want Santa to come to my house. I'd be too embarrassed. It'd stink like shit.
He'd vomit going down the chimney.
I will say, though, and to just kind of start tying this in a little bit to our topic, it is funny to think about if, somebody's dad in Germany has to go downstairs and check and make sure that, like, their kid didn't actually get, like, a hole in their shoes or some shit like that, because, like, Schwarta Pete's there waiting for them to fucking dance or something, about to beat the shit out of them. So, I mean, yeah, like, it's definitely nice being like, oh, it could have only been Santa showing up. And, in other countries, you're like, fuck, man, I hope that creepy homeless dude Belsnick was not just rummaging around my house right now.
The only thing I want for Christmas is to actually keep my child this year. Connect, Rupert. Can you please go away?
Can you go away, please?
I saw mommy getting beat by Belsnickel.
Yeah, potentially.
I saw mommy getting sacked by Krampus.
Sacked by getting scratched, her eyelids scratched out by a clawed freak.
Dude, imagine if we like there were Christmas songs, like Americanized Hallmark Christmas songs, except with the, like, German folklore sprinkled in.
Well,
that'd be fun.
To get into just a brief touch on the topic, but that's why you don't have these guys in our Hallmark culture, because you cannot make a 24 Days of Christmas movie marathon and sprinkle in. Like, the closest thing we've gotten is the Grinch, and, like, people hated the live action Grinch because it was so creepy.
Well, but he even has a change of heart at the end. Any of these companions seem like they're the people who are like, yeah, if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life. Like that's the companions. Like, they absolutely love getting to be both awful and great to kids.
Yeah, I think that you're right. That is a major theme of the Grinch is, and people completely overlook this, is all the internal conflict he goes through that entire, from the entire start to finish. He hates him, then he wants to destroy him, and then all of a sudden he loves him and he wants to save him. It's quite a high and low.
Yeah, the Who's are very forgiving people. When a warring nation comes in, there's no way they're gonna last. They'll be way too susceptible.
The Who are the French.
You think? No,
no, definitely not symbolically. That was just a little goof.
No, they're actually French.
Yeah, because they look weird and sound weird.
Yeah, it's weird. They always have fucking baguettes.
I guess the Who's had baguettes.
We love France. You guys are better than the Whoville people. What are they? Whovians? Is that their thing? Like,
No, those are fans of the BBC show Doctor Who.
yeah. Fuck. What's a Whovillians?
Damn it.
Oh, but no, the worst thing to come out of that is guess what the name for if you're a fan of Sherlock, Supernatural, and Doctor Who. If you're a fan of all three
shut
of
up,
those,
all three.
if you're a fan of all three, guess what fandom you're a
It's
part
like
of?
Sherlock.
Nope. It's worse. So this came from Tumblr. If you're a fan of Supernatural, Sherlock, and Doctor Who, you are super Who locked.
Oh.
And that's terrible.
I think I just
Super
got my. I think I
Who-lock.
just got my virginity back.
Well,
Oh shit! Yo, let's look in the mail. I think we just got a letter
Yeah.
from the V Card
Yep.
Society, and I think all three of us got it back.
no, because I don't watch Supernatural, and I've only seen a couple episodes of Doctor Who. The only show I would fight to my death for is Sherlock. But,
So then you're quasi
Yeah,
Who-locked.
Sherlock's great. Really, 2/3 of that equation kind of sucks.
but Sherlock isn't an eighth as not even any like
Yeah, that's like-
fanciful sci-fi at all.
No, but it's BBC America, and people love like the fucking like the stands. The weird stands like latched onto it
I
because
was-
of Benedict Cumberbatch.
yeah,
No, but the
I guess.
quality of Sherlock is it like you can't even compare. It's egregious that it's just because it's on BBC that it's put into the same like category, right? Like so
Well-
the fact that it's with all three of those
Right.
two other
You're
awful
right.
shows.
You're right. The only thing that they have in common with each other, or at least that Sherlock has to those other two shows, is that they are just made by the same group of British people.
Yeah, no,
Is Supernatural British?
No, it's CW
but it's
Wait,
put
then why
out-
is it grouped with it?
because of Tumblr.
Okay, so I was wrong. All right,
Oh.
then that was stupid.
I-
That's even worse, right? Sherlock
It's
shouldn't
bad.
even be with a show that's on CW.
I don't like this
Yeah.
tangent. I don't like this rabbit hole we're going down anymore. It's too confusing. and
Oh,
upsetting.
that's the name of the show. All right, let's get this. With that, I guess let's get this this gravy train started. Welcome to this week's episode of the Rabbit Hole, everybody. My name is Tim, joined as always by John
How's it going?
and Matt.
Mary Chrysler.
And the fun little segue, Matt.
Merry-
fun little
Merry
tag.
Yeah, it's
Crimbit.
not. It might be Christmas when you're listening to this, but this is our rabbit hole Christmas.
I think that's a
Or
pipe-
holidays.
I think that's a pipe dream to think that people are going to be listening to this by Christmas. I'll be happy if anybody's listening to this by Christmas next year. So.
Christmas,
Well-
Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, whatever you celebrate. It's
It's
this
the
is- this is-
rabbit ho holiday special.
There you go,
Happy
yeah.
Easter if it's Easter by the time you're listening to this episode and you're super late to this podcast. So
Yeah, I mean, listen, as long as you're listening, we're happy. But today we got a very super fun topic, very fun holiday themed episode. Because in the spirits of the holiday, we're going to be talking about some very special Christmas characters and some that have risen to popularity in the United States only in the past decade or so. Today, we're going to be talking about Santa's Little Helpers, aka the companions of St. Nicholas.
AKA Avengers Assemble of weird ass Christmas characters that would only really exist in some sort of country that would give us World War II.
This is the German folklore crossover episode.
Yeah.
No, so Kevin Feige is listening to this podcast. We all know he's a fan, and
Kevin
I think
Feige,
that
what's going on, buddy?
this is our opportunity to pitch him the next great Avengers movie,
Yeah.
Avengers versus Saint Nick and the Companions.
Exactly.
It already has a ring to it. We're gonna go into so much of it that I think you guys will be on board with it.
John, what's the German word for Avengers? Is there one?
There definitely is. I'll get back to you on that, but there's a good chance it's just like Avengers or something like
We're
that.
bringing Marvel and shitty and Christmas folklore to the worldwide market.
I will, because I think Kevin, you're listening, bud. I think that in Phase 5 we need to start off with Das Avengers Krampuslaufe.
Well, all of them are gonna have to have their own origin stories,
Right.
Which you'll, like I said, you're gonna understand that a little bit more, and then you'll be at the end of this episode totally on board with us for them having a origin story.
So we're gonna need Jon Favreau to direct the Saint Nicholas origin
Right.
story, just because that's how you get all good origin stories
And
kicked off.
and
right?
who plays Santa Claus? Jeff Bridges.
Jeff Bridges.
Because he was in Iron Man 1.
Will he wear a bald cap?
and look at it
I'm
this
just
way.
going around delivering Christmas. I don't even know.
All Marvel and Disney has to do is just acquire the rights to the Krampus movie that just came out, and they're already
Right.
one step ahead.
Dude, I could imagine that they could easily acquire whatever
Yeah, right?
cheap ass rights are.
So the phase of this next step in the Avengers Marvel universe with German crossover folklore, it's already there. It's already happening.
Fun fact: since it's folklore and it's well beyond the copyright claim of, I think it was, they could just make it. It's free. It's public domain. Krampus is probably technically a public
that's
domain
true.
character.
and I guarantee you don't have the militant comic book fans out there that would sit there and watch your Belsnickel origin story movie and be like, you really did the beard all wrong. He's got to have a longer beard and be more effeminate.
The Schwarza Pete stuff is gonna need a little,
No, we have to,
workshopping.
we have to omit him.
Yeah.
we have to omit him.
Yeah,
Unless you're gonna actually hire a black actor, but I think that's against what actually Schwarzenegger
Yeah, that's
is.
true.
So yeah, we're gonna
Disney
have to,
wouldn't let that
we
fly.
have to rewrite him and write him out eventually. But
Well, I think before we get into the our NCU, our Nicholas Companion Cinematic Universe, let's talk about the man himself. Let's talk about the guy in the big red suit. So Tim Allen was born June 13th, 1953, and starred in the hit film The Santa Claus. No.
hey, Matt, can we get a Tim Allen grunt?
Well, fun fact, I learned this at Thanksgiving with close friend Julian Bitta. The German translation for Home Improvement, I can't remember what the exact phrase is, but the title in Germany translates to "Listen to the Man with the Hammer."
This is perfect in the German theme of today's episode because it's all about literalness.
Yeah.
And that is a literal synopsis of Home Improvement and Tool Time. You have to listen to Tim Allen.
So let's talk about Santa Claus. Let's talk about Saint Nick.
The actual Saint Nick.
The actual Saint Nick. So Santa Claus is a jolly old big guy with a big white beard who on Christmas Day brings children gifts if they've been good all year or coal if they've been naughty. Now Santa is based on the real-life figure of Saint Nicholas, a 14th century bishop who was very popular due to his generosity. He would give gifts to those in need, the most famous example of this being his gifting of dowries, which is a transfer of parental property, gifts, or money at the marriage of a daughter to the 3 daughters of a very devout Catholic man. The reason for the gift was so that the 3 girls didn't have to be prostitutes anymore. Merry Christmas, everybody.
So nice of him.
And-
So nice
yeah.
of him.
And let's also think about like the concept of a dowry. They don't exist, I don't think, in Christian culture, like at like tradition at all today, but like in Muslim culture it does. You know what I mean? So so there's something very like, oh, thank God you're marrying my prostitute daughter. Please, like, here's gifts. God, thank God there's gifts. There has to be gifts, or else,
I mean, I think about the poor girls who are about to have way less sex. Honestly, that we're a very sex positive show here, and if that was their movement, then power be to sex workers.
Matt doesn't like that one.
Matt doesn't like that stance. Official stance.
It's a little. I don't. It just the phrase "girls, prostitutes, and sex positive show" all in like one minute bit. Yeah, it was a little sensory overload.
Well, that was my gift for you. Merry Christmas, buddy.
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate it.
We got to start feeding in the darkness a little early.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, we
gets
really
weirder.
have to get in the German mood.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it was during the Middle Ages that children began to be given gifts on the feast of St. Nicholas, which is December 6th. But during the Protestant Reformation, the tradition of gift giving to children was moved to December 24th and 25th, which had already been for centuries been celebrated as the birth of little boy Jesus. The reason Martin Luther shifted the day of gift giving was because, since Protestants didn't hold saints in the same regard as the Roman Catholics did, he felt that the day of gift giving should coincide with the birth of Jesus to put more focus on him, even going so far as to create his own gift-bearing character named Christkind, a small infant with wings that would bring the children gifts. But Jolly Saint Nick proved to be too popular, and he remained the main gift-bearing character.
So 2 things. One, Martin Luther was playing the long game in terms of Hallmark holidays by by moving it. Like that's marketing 101
Yeah.
to be like, nah, this guy's too early. You got to align it with Christmas because they're already sitting there. They're going, oh, because we already strategically put Christmas in the best possible spot right after Hanukkah. So we need to really. It's all about competition with the Jews. So
Martin Luther confirmed the first Mad Men.
Yeah.
Right. Like
exactly.
real.
Yeah.
He was the Martin Luther. Besides starting, the Lutheran Church, he was actually also the first big marketing executive.
You're right. The 99 Thesis is the first billboard.
It had a profound impact, and he changed the face of marketing forever.
Yeah, and he put it on a big piece of paper on a big door for everybody to see.
And he did 99. It was right. It was 99 Theses,
95.
or
I thought it was 95.
Something like
well, it was
that.
just short of 100. He didn't make it even. He knew how to get people's goats.
Yeah.
I think probably because it is 9 and then like a 5, or if it's 99. That's more eye catching than just 1 and a couple zeros.
That's
It's like,
exactly.
It's like why companies sell things for 99 cents and not $1.
Kind of.
It's like, oh, we're just short of 100. I wonder why.
Yeah, but I think you want to flex on people. Be like, I got 100 reasons. Like, I'm like okay, you know what? 99. I probably got that from Jay-Z because he had 99
There you go.
problems.
Exactly. See, there
the
is something about 99 it's like the it's like the gold standard to marketing executives.
Martin Luther had 95 theses, but a church ain't one.
Yeah,
I am-
and a pope was
Welcome
not
to
one.
the rabbit hole.
And a second thing, I want to throughout this episode, I'm gonna have to do some translation or some pronunciation checks on you, Tim.
Yeah, go for it, because I'm
so-
stupid.
Just because we do have some Germans listening to this, and they'll also probably butcher my pronunciation of it. But it's not Chris Kind, it's Chris Kind.
Chris Kind.
Because Kind for
All right.
is German for child.
Chris Kind is also the perfect companion to our NCU, the Nicholas Companion universe that we're going to be starting. I think he's a great supplement to the companions themselves, very much in the sense of like a Baby Yoda.
Yeah, like a Baby
okay.
Yoda, or I'm thinking like Kid Goku, something like that,
Yep.
where you're getting
Yep.
like you
Peter
can-
Parker.
like Chris Kind evolves into big Saint Nick. Big Saint Nick with the big swinging dick.
Big Saint Nick.
If there's one thing that's been said about Saint Nick, it's that, boy, oh boy, does that man have a gargantuan cock.
Dude, he makes toys and he has a wife, and he's had that same wife. Mrs. Claus has been there for a minute. You only achieve that kind of puss, as you would say, Tim, by
Oh, that
But-
just, don't malign me like that.
but that's your favorite word.
Poos.
Yeah, but you only get that far by knowing how to wave that flag of his. So
Nice. Wave them 95 theses.
He works on so many gifts for everybody else in the world each Christmas, but Mrs. Claus, Mrs. Saint Nick, she just needs one gift each year, and it's the same thing. It's Big Saint Nick's Big Saint Dick.
big swinging dick.
Now, all this sounds nice and lines up with our warm and fuzzy imagery for what we have as for our Hallmark Christmas culture, but said imagery was not dark enough for our let's call them warm and fuzzy friends, the Germans. Instead, they felt Santa needed his own motley crew of Christmas critters, and let's keep in mind where these guys come from. This culture gave us some really fucked up folk tales like Struwwelpeter. John,
Yeah,
right.
I'll get into that real quick. Struwwelpeter, for those of you that don't know, was a children's book that was created in the 1800s by a German who sat there and wanted to teach more cautionary tales to kids. But you don't the cautionary tales that were taught. It was very a very dark way in which about teaching them.
Right.
So you don't want a kid sucking his thumb because it could mess with their teeth, this, that, the other thing. So one of the stories in there of the Schneider, which is like just the scissor man. He would like a boy wouldn't stop sucking his thumbs, so in the middle of the night he went in there and cut off the boy's thumbs, and so it's like good, boom, now you have no more thumbs to suck.
That's a fucking king shit.
There's
That's a problem solver.
there
right
was
there.
there's another story in there, pretty much to try and teach kids not to play with fire. That pretty much ends with a house burnt down and like a pile of ashes that is very much a boy that was playing with fire who had been told not to play with fire, and like his cats are kind of like just like over his like grave, like, or over the ash pile, just being like, they told him not to. You know what I mean? So and pretty much it was like, your cats will be sad if you play with fire and die.
That's also very true of that. I feel like that's very like in line with the cat's personality is to turn death into an "I told you so" moment.
And they would have totally escaped the house fire and
for
not
sure.
told anybody else how to get out. So yeah.
This just sounds like a group of parents who had a bunch of brat children and they were at their wits' end as to how to manage them and get them to learn. They're like, you know what? We're just gonna scare the shit out of them.
And
like,
you know what? You might be 100% right about that, and it's definitely the German way to look to scare somebody straight into instead of like trying to be soft with them and massage their ego into not doing bad things.
No.
But you're totally right, because how many parents, and like I'll never knock a parent's hustle when I hear about like the crazy bullshit lies that they came up with to cover other crazy bullshit lies, because they just don't know how to explain certain things to their kids, or their kids are just it's like oh well, we told the kids that Xboxes blow up after 9 p.m. and that's the only way that we got them to stop playing with it. So you really can't be playing Xbox after 9 p.m. please.
Also, I mean, that's one of the things is like, you know, the criticism to it is that, yes, it solves the problem in the short term, but in the long term, this person's going to be working when they're 25 and they're going to be in the office and some person's going to bring their kid in and the kid's going to be sucking his thumb and he's going to like sack tackle him and, you know, be like, what are you doing? You can't be sucking your thumbs. All right.
Struggle Peter's coming. Struggle Peter's coming.
You're going to bring Struggle Peter around here. Like, you know what I mean? That's like the.
Well, Struggle Peter's the name of the book. I think he ends up being a cable.
A Schneider. Yeah.
but
You're
yeah,
remembering
yeah,
Schneider.
yeah, you don't want the guy with the scissors, like this freaky guy running around with scissors.
I have a family. Do you think I can? Do you think I can do this?
So yeah, but so either to put a button on this subject, they stopped reading these books to their kids after a while in, because some things like that they kind of pointed out in the book ended up like through learning more about child development came out to realize that like, oh, some of these kids might actually have like autism and some other mental disorders. So it's like, this isn't necessarily the right way to be treating those people, or
okay.
And
Gotcha.
and to that point, it scared the shit out of kids so much that it was doing the complete opposite of teaching them anything. It was just traumatizing kids. So that's
As is the German way.
As is the German way, but you know what they say, you don't want to traumatize those people, or else they start building camps and putting people in
Yeah,
them.
you know, oh, your kid stopped sucking his thumb, but now he's living in constant fear of death. You know, like
and hates the Jews and hates non-white people. Yeah, I think we got a problem here. Yeah.
yeah.
Now let's start talking about our first Christmas companion, and definitely the more famous of the bunch. It's our boy Krampus, everybody.
Woohoo.
My boy Krampus.
Krampus is a half-goat, half-demon character that acts as Santa's counterpart, the yin to Santa's yang, if you will. In early German folklore, that's where all the fun and joyful stories start, on December 6th is Nickelstag, or St. Nicholas Day. John, how was my pronunciation on that?
It was good. It was actually not bad.
On this day, the children would look outside to see if St. Nicholas had put anything in the boot they'd left out for him the night before. If the children were good, they would get gifts and treats, but if they misbehaved, they would get a rod. Well, I just love the idea of like, let's look outside and see if the boot's full. It's like our Bailey, the Bailey dad from before.
Yeah.
It's like, let's leave the boot out for Dad. If Dad pukes in the boot, then he's like, if it's still warm, he's still alive.
Oh, he left the straw, but puked in it. Damn it!
You leave the left boot out for the piss and the right boot out for the puke. Can't be puke.
These are traditions, baby.
Dad, it's February. Christmas is over. Why are you doing this?
Now, but on the night before Nickelstag is Krampusnacht. How's that?
Yeah, you're doing well.
Well, all you got to do is just gutter and like produce guttural sounds and be angry.
You sound a little bit more like Swedish, but it's fine.
On the Krampusnacht, on Krampusnacht, Santa's evil counterpart would come into town carrying chains that he thrashes around. The chains are thought to symbolize the binding to the devil. Krampus goes around town thrashing his chains, hitting children, putting them into a sack, and then taking them to his lair to be tortured or eaten.
It's almost surprising that heavy metal culture didn't really grab onto this character a lot more. You know what I mean? But I think that more just goes to show how soft a lot of these heavy metal guys are deep down, because they don't want to associate Christmas with this kind of negative image either. But it might help. They're like, yeah, okay, it'd be cool if you brought a Krampus on stage, but they all kind of like the idea of Santa.
Yeah, like
better.
every Satanist or like heavy metal, not that the two are, synonymous, but every like person who, exudes, a likeness for dark imagery, everyone needs at least a little break from it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like
Yeah.
they're like, you know what, Christmas, we'll leave to the devices of Western culture and Christianity and all that stuff. You know what, that's fine. But
Even Slipknot takes their masks off at the end of the day.
yeah, they get new ones for Christmas.
Well, yeah, from Krampus.
Well, so back to what you were saying before, though, John, in the sense that like this one was kind of, I guess, left because I mean, look how many years it took them to make a Krampus movie. You know what I mean? And that's something. I mean, I guess maybe horror movies are, and I'm probably gonna get destroyed for this, but they're kind of like in again, right? Like for a while, there's like a lot of like bad horror movies.
They're
and,
mainstream.
Now they're mainstream again. There's a lot of big budget productions being put on by big name production companies, but they finally made one, and from what I understand, it was pretty okay.
Was
But
it, I have no idea. Was it really?
I mean, it was cool. Like, I mean, some of like they did like a bunch of practical effects and stuff. It was a little scary.
I assumed
but,
it was probably shitty, but
I mean, I think overall it kind of is, but
well,
they actually don't hold back though. I'm gonna spoil it. Like everybody dies in the end.
It has a 6.1 out of 10 on IMDb.
That's a lot higher than I thought it would be.
Starring
Truthfully,
he's actually. I'm with you on this one. Like a 49 Metascore. Like there are movies that I thought were decent that have gotten like red blow. Like,
but I watched most of it, and
the
he
cast
got
is
like,
stellar.
dude, everybody got destroyed. Like,
wow, yeah, Adam Scott.
Tony Collette, Dave Koechner. Wow. I think we might need to fucking watch this, boys.
I think so too. But anybody who's watched it, come and give us a spark notes on it before we get into it.
So, it is suggested that in the early histories of Krampus, the demon actually has very little to do with Christmas. And even earlier German pagan traditions, Krampus, which comes from the German word claw, is the son of Hel, the Norse god of the underworld. Now, this is a bit of a newer addition to the myth regarding Krampus because it comes from a connection made by the author Gerald Brome, who wrote a book called Krampus and the Yule Lord, and features Krampus as the main character. So this is one of those, like, quote-unquote factoids you see floating around the internet that you can take with a grain of salt.
And this is the sequel to the Krampus origin story movie. It will be Krampus 2, Krampus and the Yule Lord.
Krampus 2, Electric Boogaloo. But recently there's been an emergence in Krampus traditions, including Krampuslaufe.
No, you said that wrong. You I don't know why you added an extra E there at the end. It's just Krampuslauf.
Krampuslauf, which is a run that includes children being chased down by several Krampuses in an attempt to cause some sort of introspection by the children to determine whether or not they've truly been naughty or nice that year. The earliest known written record of this tradition dates back to 1582, but recently the scaring of children has taken to the back seats, while the adults got absolutely shit-faced, much like our SantaCon or any Saturday night in an American city.
That's actually a great point, that we don't need Krampus in America these days purely because you have a shitty Santa Claus festival that happens every year.
Yeah.
So
yeah, everyone airs out their sins that night anyway.
you want to know what? And just to touch on the SantaCon thing, did you guys see the Last Week Tonight clip about they did a web exclusive on SantaCon?
Oh, really? Wow, that's awesome.
And pretty much just how it's like, okay, it's a nice little idea for people to like dress up as Santa Claus, but like it really is one of the most horrific things you can think of because there's like reports of people seeing like two Santas like fucking each other in a Dwayne Reed, like it could be like a man and a woman, but it's two people dressed as Santa Claus. There's people like obviously like when they get wasted drunk, they're
puking and pissing.
Like doing all the bodily
Yeah,
functions.
no, one of
everywhere,
the-
fighting each other.
I
You're
was
seeing a
gonna
bunch
say,
of
yep.
Santas. Did you see the one in New York City of like people literally like banging into cars and stuff?
Yeah, there's entire like half block brawls of just Santas in the city, and it's like, I mean, it's funny, but you got to imagine that there's got to be a couple kids that a similar effect is happening to them. Like that, like you said, that's the American Krampus.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if Santa Claus meets frat boy is really just Krampus in a nutshell. So
I would love like a Joker style movie, except it's for like a supervillain Santa. So it's like remember the scene in the Joker where they're all going to the Joker thing, but it's like SantaCon, and you just have like the real bad Santa.
It would really just
It's Billy Bob Thornton.
really what the movie would be is some sort of Santa Claus, like mall Santa Claus that goes postal on the day that SantaCon's happening, and like inadvertently incites way more riots throughout the city because he has all these drunk Santa Clauses around him. So they're like, oh wow, I think that's the Santa that just went crazy in the mall. It's like, wait, which one? The one vomiting? The one fighting? There's a million Santa Clauses right now.
That, and you can even step it up a little bit. You could do you can get like a Stranger Things like esque group of kids that have to then navigate the city as the SantaCon riot, pandemonium is going on.
And you would probably need a character like 11 to defeat the horde of drunk Santas because they are strong.
She is the one who eventually, she taps into the true spirit of Christmas, and she channels Saint Nick's energy, and she's able to bring him down on the hellhole that is this SantaCon city, and that would be the climax to the movie.
The upside down is just the North Pole.
Yeah, the North Pole with the Krampus characters.
Yeah, but so that's pretty much that's that on Krampus, and now we move into our next little fun guy. Now, John, we're gonna have to do a little pronunciation check on this one. Knecht Ruprecht.
Knecht Ruprecht. Yeah, we could just call him Rupert or K Rupert.
K Rupert.
K Rupert.
like K Michael.
That's my rap name.
So the German phrase, which I won't say again, translates into farmhand Rupert. So I'm just gonna call him Rupert.
Farmhand or servant Rupert. Yeah.
The traditional look for Rupert, which is a German name synonymous with the devil, is a man with a long beard wearing fur or covered in pea straw. He sometimes carries a long staff, and he carries around a bag full of ash.
Yeah,
which I love.
So
as farmhands do,
He often walks around with a limp caused by a childhood injury and is covered in soot from going down all those chimneys.
I'm really curious where the backstory was developed on the childhood injury thing, because it's like, at what point did somebody sit there and say, oh yeah, no, you have to limp because as a child, Knecht Rupert's father beat him within an inch of his life.
He was
on Christmas.
He was kicked by a stallion in his right kneecap, and it just absolutely shattered his fucking tendons.
But wait, Han, so why is he going down the chimneys?
Because he's the
Couldn't he just knock on the door?
No.
Well, we'll get into that.
He's got some sort of sexual thing about chimneys. So.
He just loves the feel of soot on his skin.
Yeah.
Rupert, instead of rewarding children for good behavior, he rewards them if they all know their prayers. If they do know the prayers, they receive apples, nuts, and gingerbread.
Yummy.
If he doesn't, he beats the children with his bag of ashes.
That's why he has the bag. It's like
the duality of man.
No, it's like
It's
beating
like-
somebody with a roll of socks or something like that.
Yeah,
like you're
or-
not gonna kill him. You're just gonna hurt. You're gonna bruise the shit out.
Yeah,
of
It's
him.
like in
it's
Full
like
Metal
what-
Jacket.
I was gonna say exactly what they did to Private Pile.
Oh
Yep.
wow, he private piles you with his fucking bag of ash. You have no idea whose ashes or what's ashes those are.
In some of the more weirder traditions, Santa and Rupert show up at your door and demand that the children perform tricks, such as dancing or singing, in order to prove that they truly are good children. Those who perform well get a gift, while those who perform badly will get beaten soundly.
This is just a really fucked up version of Germany's Got Talent, early version of Germany's Got Talent, and Santa is like the nice people on the show, like
He's Randy.
Randy or the chicks or anybody else, and then Knecht Rupert is Simon Cowell, where if he's gonna beat you within an inch.
Listen, love, I loved the song. I'll beat you with my bag of ashes.
So I like this though too, because I feel like anybody could be Knecht Rupert. like it could be a guy off the streets. It could
well, and you'll even notice, and I feel like there's a common theme here that like him, and as we'll talk about Belsnickel, these are pretty much just homeless people.
Yeah, you could have like 7 of them show up to your house in a night
like-
just to like get their licks in.
He's covered in fur or pea straw. Like, he's either did he pee himself?
And I'm gonna venture to say that they enjoy the beating part a lot better than giving out the the nuts, berries, and gingerbread. So
That's the trick. They actually don't have any nuts, berries,
because they never find someone that's worthy of it.
Well, it's because it's subjective. It's like that dance sucked. Boom,
Yeah.
boom, boom.
Make this quarter disappear. What, you can't do magic? All right.
Damn, Rupert's kinky.
Well, the worse your performance is, or if you have been especially naughty all year, you get placed in Rupert's bag and taken to his home in the Black Forest. And what happens there? Well, you either get eaten or tossed in a nearby river.
One or the other.
Yeah.
I don't know which is worse.
I would assume being
Say
eaten, because I would
eaten.
assume if you're getting tossed in a river,
You're drowning.
Unless
You're
maybe,
still in the
what,
bag. I would think you're still in the bag.
But it's like, why would he go through all that effort to carry you back to the Black Forest, which could technically be far depending on where you are in Germany, but take you back to his home, and then he's just like, you know what? Fuck it. I don't need you.
Did they fight in the Black Forest in
Yeah.
in like World War II, right?
Mhm. Oh yeah, it's a very dense forest.
Okay,
yeah.
so we have to figure out how many confirmed kills Kanesh Rupert got in World War II, because they were fighting right in his backyard, and I think that that's probably a very overlooked part of the war.
And he was definitely not a Nazi sympathizer, as much as you might think he would be. He'd be that kind of character in a movie where you're like, oh man, this fucked up dude, he's gonna like pull back his shirt and he's gonna have a swastika on it, but he's gonna actually like be the one to like help hide the people escaping the Nazis.
I can see it now. You give him the Quentin Tarantino-esque like introduction in the movies where like it freezes, you get some really cool fucking music, and then like it just shows the backstory of Rupert just like beating kids and now like devoting his life to kicking Nazi ass too.
I would really hope he doesn't do any like feet scenes with Kanesh Rupert, because I'm sure he's
Yeah.
got some
Probably very dirty.
gnarly toes.
This is like movie / like media idea number 6 that we've created just from this episode alone. I think we need to start copywriting or whatever some of this, because
well, in my opinion, they made the wrong movie. Krampus wasn't the character to focus on.
or they should have just included more. I was thinking about that before. I think if they did Krampus and the companions, that gives you so many like different things to do in the movie to build up to the Krampus part.
Well, but you can't do it like the way DC did it. You can't give him Krampus and the companions and then do the origin story for every character that showed up in that movie. You have to do origin story and then Avengers Assemble. So, I mean, it's just...
We could definitely do it better than DC. Don't worry about that.
Yeah.
Anybody could do anything better than DC.
Now we move on to our third fun friend, Belsnickel. Belsnickel is a man who wears fur which covers his entire body, and he sometimes wears a mask with a very long tongue. He's a very frightening-looking man who sneaks into children's rooms around Christmas time and gives them socks or shoes filled with gifts or treats. What is with these characters and the feet-based mode of transporting these gifts?
Maybe Quentin Tarantino does have more to do with this than we know.
Is that just the most practical box they have? Is
It's
there
just more.
shoes?
It's more surprising that we haven't gotten a true Tarantino Christmas flick, though. To your point, Matt. But I mean, we do it too with stockings. I mean, there's just something.
I didn't even think of that.
That's
Yeah,
true,
Socks.
yeah.
But what is different is like we don't rush to the stocking on Christmas Day. That's always just the afterthought for the goodies or whatever's in it. But like these people, like the focus is on their shoes and what's in the shoes. So as a kid, I would have hoped to have bigger feet to fit more gifts into the shoes. But if you have really tiny feet, you get like a couple quarters.
Damn, so not only are you cursed with a small penis, but you get less gifts too?
Yeah, man. I mean,
That
hey,
sucks.
that's how they did survival of the fittest in Germany. They just made you feel really inferior until you killed yourself or didn't continue to.
And it all started with Christmas.
Yeah, of course. It has to start with a nice holiday. You got to start with Easter. Jesus died. How much darker can you get?
Now, if the children have been bad, they will find coal and switches in their rooms. What's a switch, John?
A switch is like a little stick, but I mean, I first learned about it when Adrian Peterson got in trouble for beating his son with a switch because I thought it was a Nintendo Switch, but
Well,
I was like, what an expensive thing to
dual
use.
nunchucking Joy-Con.
Oh, that's possible, actually.
Well, I like because when I think of switches, I think of switchblades. So like I was
no.
curious, like because you have the knife out, what do? Just tap the knife
Yeah,
against them?
you're not gonna stab your
I would have
kids.
both liked to see your initial reactions to the Adrian Peterson report or like the breaking news. John's like, "What? He hit him with a game console." Tim's like, did he cut? What did he just hit him with the flat end of the knife?
Yeah, no. I will say though, I Googled it right away just because I was like, I don't know what that is. Maybe, and I feel like
he ended up hitting him with like one of like it's like the equivalent of like a blind controller on the
It's just
the
it's a
blinds thing.
It's a stick.
The blind stick, yeah.
It's really just
Yeah.
a stick.
Now, in parts of the United States in the 19th century, Belsnickel was still recognized by immigrants and the traditions were maintained. Some say the Belsnickel traditions carried as far west as Indiana, but today remnants of the tradition still exist, predominantly in Pennsylvania.
And that's why The Office is a genius show, because they truly... And that's why Dwight's actually one of my most favorite characters, because of how heavily German the influence is in his like character, and when it comes up, that's why like when he comes onto the episode dressed as Belsnickel. But I mean, hey, Office out here kind of doing some early exposing on Schwarze Pete before people were talking about it like this past year and stuff. So
well, I was gonna say though, that's kind of like, I mean, and I'll be honest, I've never really watched. I've watched portions of The Office, but not all of it, and I know probably definitely one of the odd ones out for that. But I think that's kind of a testament to the writers on that show, because like you're talking about Dwight as if he's this real character, like he has all this like all these intricacies to him. And,
I mean he does, and there's a lot of like character development that happens on him that is very continuous over the show. But I will say though, I think this more so further exploits a larger American problem we have, where something isn't like a problem in culture until we know about it. So we could sit here and be like, oh man, like they exposed Zwarte Piet before anybody did. But it's like, meanwhile, if you go to the Netherlands, there's been protests against this kind of character because of its racism and stuff like that for way longer.
Well, it becomes a global thing as opposed to a localized thing, right?
Yeah. Even though we're not talking about him yet, though.
Now let's move into a quote we have about Belsnickel. Where's this quote from, John?
This is from a short collection of essays that was written in the 1800s in the United States. So this is one of the very first mainstream descriptions of Belsnickel. But I think what's very interesting about it is it kind of highlights the larger theme of these characters, which there is some sort of like, they are based off of something else that people consider to be negative, or like what racist people are considering or sexist people are considering to be negative. So when you read this, you'll hear right away where they're going with, like, why I find this to be, the common denominator in a lot of these characters.
He was known as Kris Kringle, Belsnickel, and sometimes as the Christmas woman. Children then not only saw the mysterious person, but felt him, or rather his stripes, upon their backs with his switch.
Ew.
The annual visitor would make his appearance some hours after dark, thoroughly disguised, especially the face, which would sometimes be covered with a hideously ugly fizz. Generally wore a female garb, hence the name Christmas woman. Sometimes it would be a veritable woman, but with masculine force and action. He or she would be equipped with an ample sack about the shoulders, filled with cakes, nuts, fruits, and long hazels, and a long hazel switch, which was supposed to have some kind of charm in it, as well as a sting. One would scatter the goodies upon the floor, and then the scramble would begin by the delighted children, and the other hand would ply the switch upon the backs of the excited youngsters, who would not show a wince, but had it been parental discipline, there would have been screams to reach a long distance.
So are they kind of like trying to get these kids into some early like BDSM, like, oh, I'm trying to like some positive like reinforcement to getting beat with? You're like, oh, here's gifts, but we're just gonna whip you on the back a little.
It sounds like a really fucked up D&D character, like you know what I mean, like with the way that it's described, like somebody's just drunk creating like a Christmas themed character. But yeah, no, that's pretty fucking terrifying.
Yeah, I don't like that.
I think I'm getting like actually nauseous just thinking about they have 3 names and they're kind of a woman, kind of not a woman.
Well, that's the thing I'm trying to emphasize on is they were like,
they're shapeshifter now.
No, but he has very like hysterical like qualities and like hysterical in the crazy woman sense, like the way that they meant it,
like extreme qualities.
Yeah. Very exaggerated. Now, last and certainly least of these Christmas companions is Zwarte Piet, or, when translated to English, Black Pete. Oof. Disclaimer, this one is fucking really bad. This one's really racist. The character first appeared in an 1850 book by Jan Schenkman, and is commonly depicted as a black Moor, which is a servant. Traditionally, he's said to be black because he's a Moor from Spain, and participants who like to dress up as Pete wear black makeup, red lipstick, a frizzy wig with colorful Renaissance-era clothes, and gold earrings. Now, the character has become a recurring object of controversy, especially in the Netherlands, for its perceived cultural and ethnic insensitivity. Historically, Zwarte Piet is referred to as a servant, not a companion, and like Knecht Ruprecht, he was traditionally the one punishing ill-behaved children by beating them with a birch rod or even taking them back to Spain in a sack he carried, which
Jesus.
on arrival contained gifts for the good children. So he would empty the bag with, empty the bag of the gifts and give them to the good children, and then just fucking load it up with the bad ones.
Very efficient.
However, in the 20th century, these punishments were abolished, and Zwarte became a friendly character, although the punishments can still be heard in Sinterklaas songs.
Oh, yeah, because that's the part of the character that needs to be changed.
Oh, yeah.
The beatings, right? Yeah, no, nothing else, right? No.
Yeah, no,
You know,
the-
appearance is completely fine. It's the beatings that we just can't have anymore.
Yeah, the negative association people are taking away from it is the fact that he's beating these people. So we need to, change it up a little bit. Not the fact that we all thought the better option for this character was a person in blackface to represent
not great.
a Muslim servant. Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. Like all these characters, and Tim, I think when we were working on this topic, brought up a good point even about like Krampus, and I think it's very specific why you see Krampus only really existing in specific areas of Germany and Austria, which are the more religious, more conservative parts. But Tim said Krampus kind of like has some like negative Jewish like features that like you did see a lot of in Nazi war propaganda and stuff like that. So I think there's something very inherently racist and anti-Semitic and sexist and I mean every negative trope you could have against a negative theme you could have against a human.
It's
which
a
really-
masquerading of stereotypes.
Well,
Yeah, it is.
But it lends it,
with a negative association
Yeah.
where it's like if you're bad, these bad people, these monsters are gonna either beat you up or steal you away from your parents, eat you, whatever it is.
Throw you in a fucking river.
but I think that's the explanation as for why in some parts of Germany or a lot of Germany, right?
It's really just Bavaria that like it's
holds on to these traditions.
Bavaria, Austria.
Bavaria and Austria, and probably not all parts of Austria, but I mean Bavaria and Austria are very close to each other, so they have a lot of like similarities in terms of culture and religion.
But that would explain why the other parts of Germany then kind of let them die out, or at least let them bury this sort of folklore in the past. You know what I mean? Because if it does have those connotations, why are you going to continue with it, right? I mean, it's what explains why it's generally unknown to a lot of the world, right? Like if most people you probably go up to, they're not going to know of Krampus, or I mean, today's the first time I heard of Belsnickel or Zwarte Piet or all that stuff.
Well, so what's really funny though is that I think you had said at one point that we were wondering why death metal people and Satanists haven't kind of attached onto us. Of course, a Satanist isn't going to attach onto this because these characters are inherently Christian. So it's like
that too.
So
yeah, you're right.
So
yeah.
like even though this guy is evil, he's still like Santa's BFF or his partner in crime. So
still goes to church.
So I think the reason why you don't see these in other parts, especially in like these other parts of Germany, is because these are much more atheistic parts of like Germany, especially post World War II, post Berlin Berlin Wall. Like they are not as religious a group of people in these parts of Germany, where Bavaria is still very religious. So yeah,
and that about wraps it up for Saint Nick and his problematic compadres.
Yeah, I would say, and this isn't a conspiracy theory episode. I like it because it's a little bit more of folklore, and I always find that like conspiracy theory and folklore share a lot of similar instances. And I mean, hey, in terms of the origin of Christmas, like or the origin of like Saint Nicholas, it's kind of like a long game of telephone at this point as to what his like origin story is, because I guarantee you if you were to ask a lot of people in the United States what it is, they start giving you like the heat miser like those like old Christmas movie renditions versions of it where he's like, oh, he came from Christmas Without a Santa Claus. What are you talking about?
Yeah, and in the future you guys can expect more episodes like this. We're delving into folklore and other fun little cryptids and
anything that will take
paranormal.
you down the rabbit hole on the internet.
And give us suggestions too. I mean, we're completely open to.
100%.
We want to source some topics from the listeners, as we want to keep on producing things that are interesting to you as well.
Yeah, so follow us on Twitter at Rabbit Podcast. We're on Instagram now at the Rabbit Hole Podcast. So whenever you see a post from there, drop a reply. Make sure to follow us on there.
Leave us a 5-star review and put your suggestion in there as well. Do that.
Yeah, we're slowly taking over social media. You know what's happening.
Listen,
We got meetings with Big Zuck next week on for Facebook.
It's a climb.
did you guys see that when you start up Instagram now, on the bottom it says from Facebook?
No, I didn't see that, but I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Instagram's been owned by Facebook for a long time.
Yeah, but they're rolling out the branding.
Yeah,
that
just
makes
like
sense.
just like how we are with the
I
podcast.
think
There you go.
They're worried people forgot.
Yeah.
So,
Thank you so much for joining this week. My name is Tim, as always.
John, we'll see you guys next week.
Matt, and after today's story, just in the holiday seasons, if you see anybody on the street that's looking especially sketchy, please don't. They're probably not Belsnickel or what is it, Short to Pete or whatever. So
They're probably a homeless person who could technically be dangerous.
so you might or that, or if you want to toss them a couple bucks in the Christmas spirit, do that. Be the opposite of the companions.
Yeah.
Be better.
Be better and stay woke.